Well, that game went way better than I expected. I mean, that's for starters. And I'm just going to go ahead and say any Lonzo slander from this point forward is just no longer accepted. Like, it's just not, I'm not even going to respond to it or really even give it the light of day, because it's apparent at this point Lonzo Ball has arrived. Like, he is turning onto the scene and becoming everything that we all wanted him to be. It just took longer than we all wanted and thought it would because of the way his dad boasted about his game. And you've seen his confidence just rise over all of these games, including today, where he took and made shots with conviction, just stepped into them, stepped back. I mean, his overall game, his ability to split the defenders, go down the lane. I mean, the shot he made in overtime, he made a big three in overtime. I mean, Lonzo has literally taken so many steps forward in this stretch without LeBron that he's continuing to show what I've been preaching this entire time, that he does deserve more of a role in the offense. Any lowered stats you have seen from him are because LeBron and Rondo and others and Luke Walton are taking the ball out of his hands, and they're reducing Lonzo's impact. You have to give him the ball more. You have to raise his usage rate. You have to have him shooting more. That way he's passing more. He's more engaged. He's doing everything. Whether it's him not scoring well or he's scoring well. He started out that game, or he was 5 of 13, and he finished 7 of 17. Right? And so he's going to go through some cold stretches, and he's going to go through, some stretches where he shoots better. But you can't have him have those games where he goes 0 for 4 and stops shooting, stops being engaged. He has to continue to play, and that's what a lot of the greats have done. You've seen them be able to go 3 of 17 and then come back the next game or even in that same game and just keep shooting. And that's what Lonzo has to continue to do. Kuzma was big tonight too. He hit a big shot in the fourth quarter. He had a nice assist as well. B.I. didn't shoot well tonight after I went on to talk about how many games straight he had in double figures. But he took a step forward in his playmaking like you just addressed. I mean, and that's a great point. He did do those things well. And that's part of what I was talking about with this young core, is people that are trying to call them a bust, even when one of them has a bad game, they still contribute in some type of way. The only one who can't really contribute when he's off is really Kuzma, because when he's off, he can't really play defense or do a whole lot for you. So Kuzma's the only one that can kind of get iffy on his contribution, but he's always a threat, at least offensively. So he helps you for your spacing, because you saw him start tonight 7 of 10 from 3, and he was absolutely killing it. Now, what I want to say further is now we have to start talking about the fact, is Lonzo Ball a Russell Westbrook stopper? Like legit. Like, I mean, I said it in pregame that I thought Russell Westbrook was going to go 7 of 20 for the game. He shot worse than that, and he did not shoot well against Lonzo again. 3 of 14 today against Lonzo Ball. So he went 3 of 14 against Lonzo Ball today, 2 of 11 against Lonzo Ball prior. So you're telling me total he has went 5 of 25 when being guarded by Lonzo? I mean, that is atrocious. In his 2 games against the Lakers, his field goal percentage is horrible, 3 of 20 total. And tonight, what did he finish with? I think he finished like 6 of 25 maybe. And so you're looking through 2 games, Russell Westbrook shot 9 of 45 against the Lakers. About 1 out of every 5 shots he's making. And so, but see, you're saying Westbrook does that every game, to be honest. And I just addressed that pregame. I was telling y'all, I don't want to hear the same thing afterwards, that it's only pregame. Because again, go look at Westbrook's stats. He hasn't had a game this bad since the last time he played Lonzo Ball. The 8 games before this, he was averaging 25 points a game on 43% shooting. I mean, and his worst night was like 9 of 23. So every night he was playing decent, and even when he was having a bad night, it was bad by great standards. Tonight, he was just bad, and that was a lot to do because of Lonzo. And if it wasn't for free throws, and especially some of those free throws late, Russell Westbrook would have had a horrendous night. I mean, a lot of his points kind of, again, came from the free throw line, where he kind of got gifted some of his points to get him even in the, I think he ended up finishing with like 26 points. And you have to take this into account. He hit 6 shots, and 4 of Russell Westbrook's 6 shots were from 3. So Westbrook actually had an amazing shooting night by his standards. From 3-point range, like he was like 4 of 7. And so that probably gave Westbrook some of that confidence. So it wasn't that it was a bad shooting night by Westbrook's standards, because he was actually shooting well from the outside. It was the fact the Lakers were playing defense. Now, Westbrook did have some missed gimmies where he kind of missed some layups or stuff that you would usually see him make. But I don't even want to focus too much on that or even the defensive end of the ball, even though all of Westbrook's misses continued to be huge for the Lakers as we were pushing the comeback into eventually win the game. Now, again, we won this game off of Lonzo Ball. Now, Kuzma stepped up and was huge. His shooting was huge, and he did a lot of things scoring the ball. But between what Lonzo does on the defensive end, I'm pretty sure he had 10 assists tonight too. I mean, 18 points, 10 assists. He had a bunch of rebounds that were important. If you go watch that overtime, he was vital on the boards in overtime, getting 2 or 3 rebounds in that overtime period. And the Lakers were struggling allowing offensive boards all night. So you can't even, discredit saying, oh, you don't want your point guard to get rebounds. Well, you want your point guard to get rebounds if your centers and everyone else aren't or can't. So if you're struggling getting rebounds, well, yeah, you want your point guard to get rebounds. So I think that sometimes when people say that's a little off. Yeah, and he would have been blamed. And that's part of something that I also thought was great that he stepped up. Because if they had lost that game in overtime after he gives up those free throws, then it would have been looked at, especially if he say he goes 0 for 4 instead of 2 for 4 in overtime, then it would have been looked at, oh, well, Lonzo went 5 of 17 for the game, gave up the 3 free throws, and like the narrative would have been completely different. But instead, he hits a 3, a big-time 3. Pretty sure it was the first score of the overtime. So no one was able to really score back and forth yet. Lonzo stepped up, hit the 3, kind of put him ahead, and the Lakers didn't really look back. And that's what you needed. And granted, the Thunder missed a lot of threes, some wide open in that overtime. So they did hand us the game. But like I was saying pregame, the Lakers needed to split this road trip. Because if they split this road trip, which they already did, then they're going to be in perfect position whether LeBron comes back against the Warriors or if he waits another 5 games and isn't back until the Suns. Because now, even having split this game, now over the next 4, they really only have to win 2 over the next 4 and really just 1. Because if they go 2 and 3 over that 5-game stretch and it was Thunder, Warriors, Rockets, Timberwolves, Suns, I mean, that's not 2 and 3 is almost what you're expected without LeBron. So the fact they already got 1 tonight, if they can get 2 more, they can go 3 and 2 over that stretch, and that would be great. If they can pull off a win possibly against the Rockets or Warriors and upset either, I mean, that's even further. And this is something that's, and I'm glad you brought that up. I want to touch on that. Zoo 100% needs to be starting. After tonight, I don't see how you don't start him. He especially, maybe when you get LeBron back, you go back to McGee because of how well he was playing with LeBron and how they can play off of each other. But with LeBron out, Zoo gives you more offense and has more things he can do in his offensive game that will really help you in the first and fourth quarters when the Lakers start struggling offensively. When you've seen them at their better parts offensively is during the second and third quarters when they either have had Zoo on the court or the Lakers go small with Lonzo in which he gets more shooters. So again, like the spacing and having offensive players on the court is really what's helping the Lakers score. I mean, that should be obvious. I shouldn't have to say that, but it's crazy for me that the coaches don't realize some of these things. Because I even put up a stat, and I want to pull it up real quick because I don't remember exactly what it was. But when Lonzo, and because I don't know what his total amount for the game was, does anyone know what he ended up finishing with as far as minutes? Because he was at, when I recorded this, he was, so Svi and Lance at 6 minutes mark left in the fourth quarter, so I guess I can do the math myself. He played 29 plus 5 minutes in OT, so he played 34 minutes. So Lonzo played 34 minutes tonight and had 18 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, 7 of 17 shooting. Svi and Lance, who filled in for Lonzo and had kept Lonzo to 23 minutes through the 6 minute mark of the fourth quarter, and had pretty much had Lonzo on the bench in the fourth quarter, because whatever is going through Luke Walton's head when he's deciding that. And so then 33 minutes, not 34. And so then you see that at the 6 minute mark, you know, Svi and Lance combined had 9 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 of 9 shooting. At that point in time, Lonzo had 13 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 of 12 shooting. He got back in the game, and thankfully he hadn't cooled off, and he led the Lakers the rest of the way. But what was Luke Walton doing disrupting his rhythm like that? Like, again, and he went out so early in that third quarter, like the 5 minute mark of the third quarter. So Luke sat him for nearly 12 minutes of game time. And I had no idea what was going on. Like, Lonzo had played well up to that point, and to sit him for that long, I was assuming that Lonzo would start out the fourth quarter starting the game. But he didn't do that, and he didn't start that fourth quarter. And so then it can, you know, continue to go by. 6 minutes went by, and then he finally puts them in as the Thunder continue to chip back away and make it look like they can even run away with the game, possibly, or, you know, it could teeter back their way at least, not necessarily run away with it. And then come insert Lonzo Ball, and here you go. This is what happens. And so I really think, and so his rotations towards the end weren't well, and we didn't get to see some of his out of bounds plays because the team did not execute out of bounds plays well. So that could be some on the coach. Maybe the plays weren't properly explained and coached. Maybe the plays weren't good, or maybe it was just poor execution. No, whatever the case was, they're still struggling on out-of-bounds plays. The Lakers are going to have to figure that out because most of your out-of-bounds plays are really going to come out of timeouts. And if you just took a timeout, you really need a score. And the Lakers are struggling in that aspect. As well as they've been struggling in the first into fourth quarters, which they didn't really struggle at the end of the fourth today. They struggled in the last kind of minute closing because they kind of had that game. But again, all it really did is give 5 more minutes of pressure basketball in which we got to watch these young guys grow. And that's what's been important, and that's what I wanted to see early in the season, and why I was so dumbfounded as to why not only Rondo started, but he was getting more minutes. And then when Lonzo did finally start, they were still playing Rondo more minutes and getting Rondo in all the crunch time minutes. Like, you're not even giving Lonzo a chance to do it, show up, grow, take the shots, or do anything. Now that they're fully relying on him and they're not able to say anything else, now you see Lonzo Ball. And I'm going to show the stats here when I get off of my live, because now it's even more impressive. Because now after tonight's win, the Cavs game is looked at as a slip-up. Because now if you just look at that one game as a slip-up, then the Lakers, without LeBron, but with Kuzma, Lonzo, with their entire core 4, they're now, they're now 5-4 overall, and since Kuzma returned, they're 4-2. So they're 4-2 since Kuzma returned from his injury. So that they've went 4-2 in these last 6 games. One of the losses was in Utah, in which LeBron loses often anyway in Utah. So that wasn't a guaranteed win. and then they lost to Cleveland. And who knows, maybe Cleveland, because it was LeBron, they want to spoil his night anyway, and maybe Cleveland still finds a way to win that game, but probably not. And so again, so we're looking at these last 6 games. Could the Lakers have really done that much better with LeBron in the last 6? Like, now that the fact that they're 4-2 and have actually won this game, they can start to be looked at a little differently. Because, no, okay, yeah, they lost to the Knicks, but they didn't have Kuzma. That's what I'm trying to say. They didn't have Kuzma for that loss. When they lost to the Timberwolves, they didn't have Kuzma. And when they lost to the Thunder the first time, Kuzma got injured in the second quarter when they were leading 44-43 against the Thunder. So they had a lead when Kuzma went out. No, Kuzma went out against the Thunder, not the Knicks. And so that was the game he went out. And so him going out against the Thunder is what led to, you know, him not being there for that Knicks game. And then that entire Knicks game, you know, that's what I'm saying doesn't count. Like, I'm not counting those couple games, because name me what team in the league, if you take their best player and then their second best scorer, if you take both of those people off of the team, how many teams in the NBA are immediately going to start winning those next couple games? Like, maybe they can get it together and start winning games, but how many teams are immediately going to just continue to win? And so that's really what I'm trying to get at, is the Lakers' struggles without LeBron have really been overblown. They haven't struggled that much without LeBron. They've struggled without LeBron, Rondo, Kuzma. They've struggled a lot. But when you add in Kuzma, it really has gotten better for them. Because in all of their losses now, in all of their losses with Kuzma, they've pretty much been competing, and it's been a lot better for them. And I really think that you've seen a difference in the core and their fight. And so if we can see this again against the Rockets, now they got to go into Houston, but they should be able to match up decently well. Like, outside of with James Harden not having Chris Paul or Capella, like, it's almost got to be even kind of road. Like, yeah, they have the best player on the court in Harden, but between Lonzo, B.I., Kuzma, they got to be able to play enough defense to try and limit Harden as much as they can to try and win the game. And so it could be real interesting. It could be real interesting to see what happens going forward, because now we've actually got we've got some you know, footage now of seeing Lonzo on the court against a good team, performing well, doing all of the things that we want to see him do, playing defense, you know, creating for others, you know, rebounding, shooting the ball, driving to the rim. I mean, his first shot of the game was on the left side of the court, and he took like a 20-foot mid-range jumper for his very first shot. Like, I've never seen him take a shot from that spot on the court, and I don't know if that was his first mid-range jumper from that area, but it might have been. And so just seeing Lonzo expand to taking shots on different areas of the court, and seeing him make them and, you know, look comfortable and confident in shooting them. No, I think Lonzo is guarding Harden. And so I want to get in. I'll gloss over that for a second. I can go over here and talk about these games right here. And so coming up, Lonzo will be guarding Harden next, because Harden's been kind of starting. I mean, they have Eric Gordon listed as the point guard right now, but James Harden's playing point guard. And so I expect Lonzo to be on him a good majority of the night. I mean, we'll have to see. Maybe he'll be on Gordon, but it'll be interesting either way. I want to see Lonzo on Harden. Then right after that, we got to see Lonzo on Curry. Then Lonzo on Teague and Rose, who's having one of his best years since his MVP season. Then we got to see him against Devin Booker, then the 76ers, then the Pacers, then the Celtics. So Lonzo doesn't really have a break over these next 10 games. Excuse me. And so you're going to see over these next 10 games, you're going to continue to see game by game if Lonzo really is that defender that I have been telling y'all he is. He is a first-team all-defender. I don't care about defensive rating. I don't want to hear who's ahead of him in steals, blocks, anything else. Watch the game and see his impact. Like, the players he guards, especially when he is guarding and focused on guarding that person and not help defense, I mean, he shuts his man down again and again. Lonzo is a real defender, and if you don't believe him, or if you don't believe me, excuse that. If you don't believe me, ask these 10 point guards after this list completes. Because Lonzo already went through one stretch in which haters said that he was not going to shut down those lists of all-star guards. And now he's going through one that's an even better list of onslaught in which he's going to face Curry twice. And Harden, and he just shut down Westbrook, and he's got Kyrie and Ben Simmons on the list. So he's got the top 5, top 6 point guards in the league, basically, outside of Damian Lillard, all coming up on his schedule, and he's already shut Damian Lillard down 3 times. And so again, when you really look at this, Lonzo has a real chance going forward. I mean, especially because everything can compile into one game. James Harden hasn't had a game below 30 points in forever, right? Because he's averaging 42 points a game over his last 17 games or whatever it is. And so if Lonzo Ball and the Lakers could find a way to have James Harden have his first dud and James Harden score under 30 points, right then that night Lonzo's first team all defense would be locked up. That alone, because no one has been able to stop James Harden from doing anything. So if they actually held him below 30 for when they play after Lonzo's done this to Westbrook and all these other point guards, yeah, I mean it would go through the roof. His first team all defensive talk right before a matchup with Steph Curry. I mean, we're talking about a real chance for Lonzo over these games to not only make a mark defensively and to where he can insert himself fully into that conversation, but to where he's helped his team so much on both ends that he's earned more of that overall respect from Luke and LeBron to where he gets a higher usage rate the rest of the season. Because like I was saying, and people misconstrued on my on one of my Twitter posts, when I was showing the usage rate and the assists or the usage percentage and the assists, what I was trying to point at was when you have a higher usage rate, you're able to get more assists just because, now I know the usage rate doesn't have to do with that directly, but when you are shooting the ball more, that obviously means you have the ball in your hands more. That's going to mean that not every one of your team's possessions did it actually end in you finding a shot you wanted. So you're obviously having the ball in your hands, you're going to be passing more. Because you're such a scoring threat, others are looking at you, which causes more openings to give you easier assists than someone who can't score. That's why someone like Lonzo or Rondo or these other players that you can name who get assists while not being able to score too well, that's why it almost becomes more impressive. Because you already know all they can do is pass, so you're waiting for the pass and you still can't stop it. And so that's part of what makes that impressive and what I was trying to show. But I was also trying to show with that is Luke and the Lakers need to increase Lonzo's usage rate. Because if they increased his usage, I've shown the numbers on if he takes more shot attempts, his field goal percentage goes up, his points goes up, his three-point percentage, his assists, his rebounds, everything. The more shots in a game Lonzo takes, the better he does. And what did he actually finish tonight? Did it say he finished 7 of 18? Hold up. I want to make sure. Oh, no. So he finished 7 of 17 tonight, which is funny because now Lonzo's career high in field goal attempts is 17. So Lonzo's had 2 times in his career he shot 17 field goal attempts, and he's had 1 time in his career he shot 27 field goal attempts, and that was his second game of his career. And so like I've been saying on my live constantly, there's been a change over that span that has caused him career being confident enough to take 29 shots to right now only being to the point where he wants to take 17 in a game in which he has it going. And so I'm telling you, Lonzo's going to figure it out. And when you see what Lonzo's going to do year 6, year 7, year 8, anyone who called him a bust is going to look so foolish. Because I'm telling you right now, just off of what you saw tonight, he's literally showing you almost James Harden-like ability, except the fact he can't shoot free throws and get to the line and create fouls. But if you look at like his step back three and the way he shoots threes and different things like that, James Harden mixed with the Jason Kidd is a comparison I'm really starting to grow fond of because of that step back three. And I really think at some point in Lonzo's career, in the next 2-3 years, you're going to see him take 7, 8, 9 attempts a game. Like, you're going to see Lonzo have a historic level of 3-point attempts per game because, I mean, he's already shooting 5 a game and he's not even hitting a great percentage. If Lonzo started out a season hitting a great percentage, most of his shots are going to come from 3 and he's going to actually take them. And so, and he was the leader of tonight's game, and he's been the leader for the Lakers during the stretch without LeBron. And that's why it was so absurd to me that any so-called analyst on Fox or ESPN had the gall to come out and say that Kuzma has, had the most progression since last season, and he's been the biggest Lakers stepping up in the absence of LeBron. I thought that was absurd. Obviously, Kuzma had another great night tonight, and when he has a night like tonight, you got to give it to him. But you also have to look at how much a night like tonight has to do with people like Lonzo and Brandon Ingram, and it also has to do with him getting hot from 3. No, Kuzma is not better than Lonzo. I'm sorry. Kuzma's not better than Lonzo, period. End of story, and it's not even up for debate. I mean, Kuzma is a great scorer, and when he gets hot, he can light it up. But he's getting hot, fed off of Lonzo and Brandon Ingram. Again, tonight he had very few ISO points. When he scored his 41, 0 of his points were ISO. They were all assisted. Brandon Ingram is the not Brandon Ingram, excuse me. Kyle Kuzma is the type of player that fits perfectly with a Lonzo Ball or with a LeBron James or even a Brandon Ingram that can continue to help set him up. That is where Kuzma is finding his strength because he's great at slashing and he can get hot and streaky from 3. And so you're seeing those things make him have great games, and not to mention the fact that he's athletic and he can score well around the basket, and so that gives him a lot of chances because he's cutting and everything else to kind of put up points. And he's unconscious in the fact that he wants to shoot. And so Zubac probably was maybe the player of the game. Again, the Lakers don't win without Lonzo Ball because Zoo even had a play in overtime that he wouldn't have had without Lonzo. He had multiple other points that were assisted by Lonzo. And so, yes, Zoo was great. His percentage was insane. He was the difference maker. And we're not winning without him either. I mean, it really was. That's why it's hard to start saying that. You can't say, oh, well, we wouldn't have won without this guy or this guy. I mean, I think the only guys we wouldn't have won or we would have won without tonight is probably Lance. Lance might have been the only guy we could have done without. Like, he had a nice layup at one point, and other than that, I mean, if he wasn't in the game, you would have had Lonzo in the game more, and I think you would have been just as fine. Now, I thought Svi, even though his shooting percentage wasn't as good, he did hit a 3 or 2 that I thought was timely and kind of important to what the Lakers were doing. And no, this is the second time Lonzo outplayed Westbrook. And now, Westbrook obviously is a much more seasoned player, and, he does this game in and game out, but how many times will Lonzo Ball have to outplay Westbrook before people either just say he has his number, he's either better than Westbrook, or they just simply stop saying Lonzo's a bust? one or the other. Something's got to stop happening, right? Like you can't just continue to feed this narrative Lonzo's a bust. And you're not going to be able to hear that much longer. Now all you're going to hear is, okay, well, why is he still shooting 40% from three? Or not from three. Why is he still shooting 40% from the free throw line? Which is absolutely horrendous, and I can't make any excuses for. But again, I think a lot of it is confidence, and that Lonzo's a confidence-driven player. And so I really think that he's more of a 60 to 72% free throw shooter. But the real issue has been that, between confidence and all these other things, not working on his game, adding muscle, all sorts of different things that can kind of compile on together, plus the pressure and him wanting, all of these things, I think you see the free throw percentage drop even further. Now, maybe those are all just excuses, but I just can't imagine that Lonzo, who has shot such a great percentage on step-back threes over the last 20 games and is shooting so much better from three, can be so horrendous from the free throw line. I think there are some other factors leading into it. Now, I don't think he's a 90% shooter, but I really think he should be more around the 65-70% range, about where you've almost seen LeBron. Maybe even a 72% kind of range is where Lonzo kind of should be, and he isn't right now. And again, I've said those are a lot of things, but like you've seen tonight, he stepped in and shot a lot of those shots with conviction and didn't seem to second-guess himself. Which, when he second-guessed himself, a lot of the season has been when you've seen him throw up ugly shots or ugly misses, and when you see him more likely miss. Every time he takes it and immediately rips it, I have such a confidence the shot is going in, it's absurd. And I shouldn't have that kind of confidence with Lonzo Ball shooting, because he hasn't proven that. But when he shoots it with confidence, and you can tell when he does, that's when I also have confidence it's going in. It's when he gets the ball and he waits a couple seconds and then decides to shoot. I never think that's as good of a shot. When Lonzo actually has his rhythm or gets into that step back, he is shooting well and has been impressive during stretches. And so he has still had some duds here and there. And I think he will make up for that as time goes on. And we're just really getting to see a ton of growth. And tonight was great for that. And I'm really pretty much just excited. So his stat on catch and shoot threes for the season, I would have to go look it up again, but I had already looked it up before. I'm pretty sure the exact number was 32.1. So for the season, he's shooting 32.1% on catch and shoot threes, but 33% overall. So he's shooting a lower percentage on catch and shoot threes. But it's not necessarily, because some of those catch and shoot threes are catch and shoot, and he still looks like he second guesses the shot, because whatever it was, he got the ball and he doesn't know if he should shoot. He's open. He may not have been ready, whatever it is. And he just kind of puts up a shot that does not go in. But that's why the ball needs to be in his hands more. And I think they need to get LeBron to play more off ball. If you put the ball in Lonzo's hands more, where he's more comfortable and he's more of a scoring threat, then at that point, LeBron is a scoring threat no matter where he is. And so LeBron could be a perfect role man for Lonzo. And LeBron could be doing a lot of a role of what Kuzma already does, but to a greater level, to where they almost have two of them. And he's creating as well, where LeBron's constantly cutting, setting picks for Lonzo, just focusing on scoring, and let Lonzo have a lot of that burden of carrying the offense. And, come fourth quarter, or when games get close, or if Lonzo's not doing his job, that's when LeBron should take the ball out of his hands and start sending Lonzo, down to the corner as someone's screener or whatever, right? And if those things were happening, I'd understand. But what we're seeing is from the jump of a game, when LeBron and Lonzo are on the court together, we see Lonzo just pass the ball at half court, then go wait in a corner and screen for someone. And we don't need that. No, and that's what I'm saying. Because if LeBron played like a stronger, maybe not stronger, that's debatable, but if he played like a stronger, faster, better Karl Malone, oh my God, the Lakers would be good. Like because LeBron's a way better skilled, so many different things. If he just did and tried to morph his game a little, even though he's the best player on the planet, God, the Lakers could be good on offense and defense. They have all the pieces to be good defensively. Part of the problem has just been the way they want to use their pieces on offense. And some of that has to do with LeBron. Some of it has to do with Luke Walton. And then with this stretch with no LeBron, then kind of what you're seeing is the Lakers don't have three-point shooters. And so LeBron, what he does is he's bringing so much attention that he gets these open shots to other people. And so it can kind of help out with your spacing and your overall shooting. And, it can kind of change though to where it can gloss over the fact that you don't have a ton of three-point shooters. But once you took LeBron off the court, the Lakers did have that adjustment period because they don't have Brook Lopez. They didn't have Julius Randle. They didn't have some of these other guys they had last season that were able to do a number of different things on the court for them, including shoot threes that help space the floor. And so when you have those people spacing the floor, it helps everyone on the Lakers team, specifically Lonzo and B.I., and it helps Kuzma as well because it gives him easy cuts to the basket. And so I really just don't get how Luke doesn't get a lot of this simple stuff. And he really should. But the only reason we aren't calling for his head any longer, and we put out something, kind of stating that we think Luke may actually be the right coach for the Lakers, is because he has done such a great job on the defensive end. And I think the only possible way to beat the Warriors is on defense. So you're going to need to be a good defensive team. So that's going to start with some of his schemes and everything else. And then from there, you also need, he has a knowledge of Golden State's game plan and personnel a little more than other coaches do. Maybe not as much as like LeBron, but he knows everything pretty well, having worked within it. And so I really think what he can provide defensively is great. I think the biggest issue amongst the Lakers coaching is their assistant coaches. I don't think their offensive coach is very good. They don't even have a shooting coach. I think there's a lot of little things that are the Lakers' problems that are underlying, why their offensive part of the ball can be bad. Like, for example, Lonzo came out and said Rondo is helping him after practice, finishing around the rim the last couple weeks. And you're seeing Lonzo get better with that. Well, why is Rondo doing that after practice? Where was one of the Lakers' coaches already having been doing that with Lonzo for the last year and a half? So there's an issue in player development, in coaching, and not all of it is just on Luke. I mean, he's the figurehead, and his rotations, yes, you're right about that. His rotations are horrible. I mean, I just wish, I just wish he could possibly see my rotations on our website. I built the Lakers rotations at the very beginning of the season. Like, I wrote out for Luke Walton what the Lakers rotations should be because I already knew he was having trouble with it. Now, obviously, I'm never going to get to Luke Walton and he's not going to see what my rotations are. But I still think my rotation is exactly what the Lakers should be doing, especially when they're at full health. Like it just really is. And part of what my rotation would be is you have Lonzo start each quarter. Quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you don't disrupt his rhythm at all. and then you take him out whatever points in those quarters Luke deemed necessary based on either he stopped giving effort, he's not playing well, or you just want to give him a rest. Whatever the case is, then you can pull him. So say then you pull him at the 4-minute mark of the first quarter, which is about his normal time, and then you don't put him, and then you put him in to start the second. Then he could play the whole second if he was playing well, and then you kind of do the same thing to start that third quarter, or to end the third quarter. Maybe you give him a little break to end the fourth and you don't start him then, but I still would, depending on how much you've given him a break the rest of the way, foul trouble and anything else. And I would play Rondo no more than 18 minutes a night and about 10 to 13. And that's just because I would play Lonzo a minimum of 33 to 35 minutes a night, and I wouldn't play them on the court too much together, maybe 2 to 3 minutes a game at max, just to see how it does. But Lonzo really should play a majority of the game. They can't be disrupting his rhythm. Like, honestly, he's just too important. Like, and because he was their most recent number 2 pick, and he wasn't the one that got an off season, in my mind, he's got to be the only one that's untradeable. Like, completely untradeable. You can't touch him because he is showing so many areas of progression and ability that 2 to 3 years from now, he is going to be that transcendent player. I am telling you, he is. Like, he is transcendent in so many areas. He is right now, as a second-year player in the NBA, he is a top 10 passer in the entire NBA. Now, that doesn't go off assists, but going off, you look at the game. Now, obviously, if you go off last year's stats when he was able to lead a team for the full year, he was top 10 in assists. But I'm just talking about pure passing ability. He is top 10 in the NBA right now. You can't name 10 people that can make the passes Lonzo Ball can, period. Rebounding, he's a top 3 rebounding point guard in the game right now. As far as three-point shooting goes, he's ranked 11th among point guards in three-pointers made. And he's shooting an improved percentage in all areas except for free throw percentage, which, yes, needs to be addressed. And, I mean, like, when you just continue to go down and look at these, it's absurd. It's absurd that anyone can still think he's a bust, and that they could be, you know, even thinking that he's going to get traded. Like, at this point, he has to have shown you enough that you can tell he's going to be a star. Like, he's easily, like, I don't even think 15, 7, 7, 1.5, and 1, I don't even think that's even, not only do I think that's reasonable now, I think that may be a low part of his, you know, threshold. Like, I now think Lonzo's ceiling is like 21 points a game, 8 assists, 8 rebounds, you know, 2 steals and a block. Like, that's probably near what his peak will be. Like, you're going to see him be a 28, 8, 2, and 1 type of player. And, like, that's what he'll almost give you on a nightly basis. And I don't think, you know, seeing a game where he goes for some kind of 5, 5, 5, 5, I don't want to say necessarily the 5 block. That may be tougher. But I think there's a chance you may see him go a 5x5 at some point in his career. Be one of the first point guards ever, if not the first. I would have to look it up to know if he would be the first to do it. And so that's something, you know, tough to do, to just be dominant in every category. And that's something Lonzo is and can provide. Everyone's problem with him is he hasn't had the consistency of doing this game by game. But like I was showing you before, he's starting to do this game by game. Like, if you continue to just go look at it, like, take out the Timberwolves game, because he played 23 minutes and they started 2 centers and he just looked uninterested. Take out the last Thunder game just because, well, I mean, I guess you don't even have to take it out, but just take it out because he didn't play well and he stopped shooting. Like, he went 0 of 4 and he D'd up Russell Westbrook well, or 1 of 4, and he D'd up Russell Westbrook well, but he just stopped shooting. And then against the Pistons, they won that game. But again, he stopped shooting, but he controlled the offense the whole time and played great. But he was 2 of 6 from the field. But so if you take out those 3 games and look at just the games since LeBron's went out over this 12-game stretch, if you look at just the 9 games where he shot double-digit field goal attempts, oh, I mean, it's night and day. I mean, it really is. Just like, I'll look up the stats just to show you. 2 seconds. So just over these games, you're talking, since LeBron went out, oh, well, I'm even missing a couple of them, but he had 19 against the Kings. Then he had, I don't see the Clippers game, but then he had 13 against the Kings again. And then you skip the Thunder game, he had 17 against the Knicks, 21 against the Mavs. His only real bad game over this stretch, 7 points, 3 of 13 against the Jazz. Then he went for 13 against the Cavs, 19 against the Bulls, 18 against the Thunder. Which none of those are huge 20, 30, 40-point nights. But that's not necessarily Lonzo's game, because he's not going to take the free throw attempts and, you know, everything else that usually adds into you having one of those kind of nights. So what he is doing, though, is controlling the offense, growing, and showing an ability to score more than 9 points a game. Like, he's showing you easily right now, he could go out there and do 16, 7, and 7, depending on what the team was. Like, if he had 3-point shooters around him and a team was fully just constructed around Lonzo Ball, oh, I mean, he could have good numbers this season. Lonzo could be a 15, 8, and 8 guy this season if the team was built right. And that's not me exaggerating. Like, I really think he's that good right now that he could go do that. The problem is he doesn't have a team telling him, we want you to take 15-plus shots a game. So that's part of him needing to, you know, him needing those shots for his development. It would all be easier. No, and I do think LeBron playing power forward would extend his career. I think LeBron could play the next 7 years basically at power forward. Because if LeBron played power forward, even at 41 years old, when he becomes less athletic and is just stronger and bigger than everyone, at that point he is Karl Malone. So a 41-year-old LeBron, I think will be Karl Malone. When you look at all of what he can still do offensively, he would still be that kind of player for you. And so I think LeBron does need to develop those things, does need to go to the post more, does need to be more of a role man. And I think he does need to finally start adjusting his game for the later part of his career. I do fully agree with that. And as you can see behind me, like, I've been a LeBron fan forever. Like, I predicted now, and I'm big on these predictions. And so when I say Lonzo's going to be transcendent, don't take it lightly. Because I can show you records of different things I've predicted. I predicted Lonzo Ball's first triple-double in his career when he went to Milwaukee and broke LeBron's record. I predicted he was going to do that. I said that LeBron was going to go to 10 straight NBA Finals. He's been to 8. There's a chance he could go to more. Probably won't, so I could be wrong on that. But I predicted that he was going to 10 straight before he ever even went to Miami. Like, I predicted it right before that summer happened. I knew what was about to happen. I predicted him, Wade, and Bosh teaming up, except I thought it was going to be in New York, not in Miami. And so I can just continue to go down the list. And again, I'm telling you, Lonzo Ball will be transcendent, and he is already a special player that is impacting the Lakers game by game, and was doing so before LeBron went out. Just his role has changed throughout this entire season. No one, and I repeat, no one's role on the Lakers has changed more game by game and throughout the whole year than Lonzo Ball's. And that's just a simple fact. He started out the year as coming off the bench because of injury. Then Rondo starts playing, or then he starts starting over Rondo. Rondo comes back from that little suspension. He gets more time, but coming off the bench. Then Lonzo Then Rondo gets injured again. He starts to get more minutes, but with LeBron, and so his role is still kind of changing. Then he gets more minutes without LeBron, and then Kuzma, goes out of the lineup again. So you've constantly seen Lonzo just adjusting. You've had to see his game adjust and him having to adjust to switching out pieces, because he's also been the only Laker to play in every single game this season. And so he's been the Lakers' most consistent piece and one of their most important pieces game in and game out that has been playing defense and helping them in a variety of ways rather than, just filling up the box score, points-wise. He has been doing a lot for them, and he's going to continue to. And and that's why tonight was so big. So big. Him hitting the shots the way he did in overtime, no less, and, kind of taking over in that fourth quarter, that was big for Lonzo. Because that was not only big for his confidence in himself, but that was big for everyone else's confidence in him and naysayers, inability to have confidence in doubting him. And so every time he has a game like that and the Lakers can win against a good team, that's only going to continue to further all of the bus talk out of the window. Like, we're only a couple more games like this away to where all you're going to hear from now on is, all you're literally going to hear is, oh, well, his free throw percentage is bad. Or, oh, well, he didn't shut this guy down tonight. Like, Lonzo's going to be such a great player that's what you're going to hear. You're going to hear, oh, he didn't shut this guy down tonight. Oh, he didn't, he didn't win tonight. Oh, he didn't, shoot a great free throw percentage tonight. Like, that's what you're going to hear about Lonzo Ball going forward. Throughout his career, because even when he improves his free throw percentage, he's still going to hover around 70%. And so you're talking about you're going to continue. People are going to harp on him because he's Lonzo, and all of those haters aren't going to just all of a sudden become fans because he proves them wrong. They're not. They're going to continue to hate and find other ways to discredit him any way they can, because that's just the name of the game. That's what anyone does to any player they don't like or they do. Okay, and see, look, and OKC played well to start that game, and that's why I disagree with that. The one who played bad was Russell Westbrook, and that made the rest of the Thunder look bad. But he played bad last time they played, and he's going to play bad next time they play. Lonzo Ball has Russell Westbrook's number. The entire Lakers team has Russell Westbrook's number. Did you not hear Luke Walton say, and the Lakers say, oh, well, they're not a very good three-point shooting team, so we're going to let them shoot that, and we're going to live with it if they make it. Because they're not a good three-point shooting team. Ferguson hit some early. That was the only reason the Thunder were actually in this game. And then if you take that out, the Lakers actually would have ran away with this game. If it wasn't for Ferguson hitting a bunch of threes early and that kind of, giving the Thunder the big lead and the big stretch, the Lakers could have taken away with this game, or at least they would have been close that whole time before that second unit went in. And then they would have, probably extended if the second unit still performed the same way. And so that kind of bugs me too, because I feel there's going to be quite a few people that are going to discredit the Lakers like they didn't do anything tonight. And maybe it's going to take another win. But again, what tonight did is it stopped a whole lot of bleeding, and it didn't erase that Cavaliers game, but it did. Like, that loss is still there, but it's almost as if they beat the Cavs and they lost to the Thunder. But, I mean, obviously they didn't. But it's still the same thing either way. They just beat the better team. So they still showed you what they wanted. And against the Cavs, they showed fight at the end. They just got down early. And they got down early again today against the Thunder. Now, and I'm telling you, and I've been saying it every live, the Lakers' issue, they start the first quarter bad, they end the fourth quarter bad, and they start the third quarter bad. And they've been doing that without LeBron, because those are the three most important parts of the game in which the opposing defense and team is more, kind of keyed in. Usually at the beginning of the game, you're probably going to be a little more tuned in because, you're immediately kind of trying to put in your game plan and what you wanted to do and everything into the game. Then come after halftime, your coach just made adjustments. Same thing should be happening. You're going to want to come out there, do those little specific things, and you should see more defensive effort, in that beginning part. Into the fourth quarter, same thing, kind of, except now you're not coming from the game plan part. It's more of, okay, now game's on the line. Everyone is kind of more tensed up and, wanting to play defense. And so it's a process over those points, but every other part of the game, the Lakers are playing great. They're struggling in those aspects. They struggled in those aspects without LeBron, and a lot of that's just because, they need him for that veteran experience to get him through those things because they are young. And so I really think that it's going to be interesting when LeBron comes back to not only see how he fits in, but to start seeing how much better Lakers start games. Because their first quarters have been horrendous over the stretch of games. And after I get off my live, I'm also going to show the breakdown of quarter by quarter what Lakers have scored and allowed each quarter, since LeBron's been out. Because I'm telling you, the first quarter is one of their worst because they do not start the games well. No, they did. Here, actually, I'll pull that up. I'll pull up the Lakers stats tonight real quick for you before I finish up this live. So their free throw percentage, I'm pretty sure, was actually much better than tonight, and that's something I was going to say earlier. 19 of 21. 19 of 21 from the free throw line. The Lakers shot 90% from the free throw line tonight. If they shoot their average, they lose. If they even shoot 10% above their average, they lose tonight. They shoot 20% above their average, they lose tonight. They needed all 23, 24% of that increase to win tonight on the free throw line. Like that's the biggest issue. And that's what I mean when I have said again and again all year long, I have told you that the Lakers would be the best team in the NBA if they had someone who could just come in and shoot free throws for them every time they got to the line. They'd be the best team in the NBA because no one could stop them from getting to the free throw line. No one could stop them from getting to the basket. It would be crazy what the Lakers could do. Their issue is they can't really shoot free throws to save their life, and that's a big problem. And so them going 19 of 21 is huge. If you look at any of the other games they've played this year, you give them a 75 and 80% free throw percent, not even a 90. You give them 75, 80%, like a league average free throw percent, and the Lakers lose 10 less games than they already have. Like, I'd have to look at the standings right now, but I'm pretty sure the Lakers, just if they shot 15% better at the free throw line, if they increased that one area, not even something that has to do with actual gameplay, just something that's supposed to be gimmies, the Lakers would be 35 and 11 right now if they just shot 75% at the free throw line. They'd be 35 and 11. That puts them at the best record in the NBA. No, and see, Oklahoma City did miss a good amount of free throws, and that was also part of the difference. Oklahoma City was the Lakers tonight. They shot 24 of 36 from the free throw line, 67%. Like we basically just switched places at the free throw line. That's really what wins and loses games. Like people are making a lot to do about some of the other things that are either more flashy or more fun to talk about. Who got beat on defense? Who made this shot? Who did this? Who did that? But really, the game is coming down on almost a lot of the games in the NBA are coming down to the free throw line, specifically for the Lakers because they can't make free throws. So they're the league worst free throw team. So they're not getting the freebies. They're actually scoring on people and to score their points because they have to. They have to actually put the ball in the basket while the clock is running because right now they're horrendous at the free throw line. If the Lakers could really just improve, and that is why Harden is so impactful, and that's the biggest difference between a Lonzo and a Harden. If Lonzo could shoot 80, 90% from the free throw line, it would be absurd. Because if he could get that great at the free throw line, the steps you could see him take, Lonzo could be, he couldn't be that level of scoring every night because he wouldn't do that. But you could see him be that level as far as the three-point shooting. You could see Lonzo be that level on a nightly basis. Like you could really see Lonzo take as many threes as Harden's taking this year, but probably making a higher percentage. Like Harden has shot so many more threes than Steph Curry, and he's still made less than him. It's absurd. Like he shot over 100 more threes than Steph Curry on the season, and Steph Curry still made more threes than James Harden. So, Harden is shooting a ton of threes, and I really think Lonzo is just, like you just said, one summer away. You give Lonzo a full summer, he should. Lonzo should learn how to travel. But see, Lonzo's step back is already effective, and he doesn't travel. Lonzo's got a very effective step back, and I don't see him get called for travel on it ever. And so that's something that, and one thing I do want to see Lonzo continue to get better at is stop jumping with the basketball. Like he doesn't always jump with a purpose, and sometimes he'll have the ball and he'll jump, and then he'll have nowhere to go with it, and he'll kind of throw the ball, and it'll go out of bounds, or it'll be a weird pass, and his guy won't be able to get to it the way they should. And so I do need to see Lonzo improve in some areas still if I'm going to, harp on him. There are some little things, and even in just simple decision making. But again, I've been so impressed with his development that, again, I'm taking each of these wins for what it is. And tonight was a win. Not only did the Lakers win the game, but again, he stepped up. He stepped up, he delivered, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it before I end this up. Lonzo's untradeable. He just is. He is untradeable, and he is not going anywhere. That's just as simple as it can be. LeBron loves him. The Los Angeles fan base loves him. Like, every time he misses a three, you hear real disappointment out of the Lakers crowd. Everyone wants Lonzo to be successful. Now, yeah, that's because he's the number 2 pick, but there's a lot of other reasons. Like you just want him to be successful unless you don't like him or his dad. And so you can see a lot of the progress, happening and taking place, and not to mention the fact that, I think Lonzo will almost always kind of be a scapegoat for LeBron now the rest of his career. Like, so many people also hate on Lonzo to where I've noticed people who are LeBron haters start taking up for LeBron just so they can bash Lonzo. Like, I have seen it happen countless times now. And so it's starting to really, dig its way in for me and show me that, people are really starting to hate him to the point where maybe their playoff losses or any of their losses that they'll have with LeBron in, people will continue to point fingers at Lonzo, lowering some of that blame LeBron will get if the Lakers don't win a championship. And so I really think between his skill, between the him not having had an off season, and the Lakers for sure are going to want to see what he looks like after an off season. I just think there's no way he's available to be traded, because they're just not. Like, the Lakers would be sick, and the Lakers fan base would be sick to their stomach if they traded Lonzo Ball and then the summer after he gets a full year to work on his game, he goes and wins a Most Improved Player award, and for some other team that they traded him to, he goes and averages like 16, 8, and 8. Oh, the Lakers would be sick. Their fan base would be horrified, and if it didn't immediately result in a Lakers title for LeBron, LeBron would become hated in Los Angeles. Because he would have almost ruined Lakers basketball for the next 10 years just so he can plant himself there. So LeBron does have to win a title, and that's part of the reason I didn't want him to go to LA. Because I am such a LeBron fan that I didn't want that to kind of ruin part of his legacy if he didn't win. Because LeBron has to win in LA. He doesn't have a choice. If he doesn't win at least one title in LA, I mean, that's an issue. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter the talent around the rest of the league. He just has to win one in LA. Or else so many people are going to talk about Kobe and others in such a better light than LeBron. And not to mention, if he doesn't win a title and they traded away more of this young core after letting Julius Randle go and Russell go and other pieces so they could make sure they got LeBron and other stars, if it still didn't result in a title and they gave away all of their future for the next 10, 15 years for that, to watch their future, go be more successful other places, oh yeah, the Lakers and their fan base, they would be horrified. And the Laker fan base would really kind of turn against LeBron. It would be pretty bad. And so I just think because of a lot of those reasons, Lonzo's just got to be untouchable. Like, he just does, because he continues to just be a scapegoat. And so as long as he's on the team, for the next 2-3 years, he's gonna shoulder, at least as much of the blame every night as LeBron will, if not honestly more, because people are gonna blame him. Because LeBron's going to have better stats than Lonzo on a nightly basis. So Lonzo's already opening himself up to more criticism. And so when you look at all of those things, I really think it's just hard to trade any of them. But especially after a night like tonight. And the fact that they've played the Warriors and other teams so well. So it's going to be interesting. Especially if we got no LeBron for the Rockets and then the Warriors. Well, we already know not the Rockets, but the Warriors too. Because we could see what this young core can do against this Rockets team. Then we can see what they can do against this Warriors team without LeBron. Because what happens is, if they go beat this Rockets team now, then they beat this Warriors team without LeBron, then this media thing that was spinning about the 4 and 7, it's going to flip the other way, where now all the pressure goes only on LeBron James. If they can somehow win, let's not even say the next two, because that's a stretch. The Lakers aren't winning the next two. But if they win one of the next two games, the narrative can even be that if they only even just compete in one. Especially if the win is against Golden State. Because then they would have had 1.5 games against Golden State where LeBron wasn't playing and the Lakers win. If you have 1.5 games against Golden State that you won, I mean, that's got to be very... And I think that's got to be very telling. And so I just really hope that a lot of things can start changing. And I mean, again, y'all are really just going to have to tune in to my pre- and post-game lives to get an accurate, account of what Lonzo is doing each game and the progression of him and the other Laker core. Because a lot of the media is kind of misconstruing everything, and a lot of people are kind of overhyping what other people or other members of the Laker core does in comparison, just because of their draft position. And that's something that you have to look at. Like, they're looking at the fact Kuzma and Hart were later picks, so they're overplaying, and so they're exceeding expectations, so they're considered to be so great. Now Lonzo and B.I. are number 2 picks, and B.I. has been this consistent player for the Lakers, consistently giving you pretty much the same thing. He just hasn't taken that huge step to where you see a 40-point game, mostly because he isn't great at the free throw line, doesn't take a ton of them, and he doesn't shoot threes, and not a great percentage. It's real hard to score 40 and 30 plus points in the NBA if you're not a three-point shooter and you don't shoot a ton of free throws. I'm going to tell you, it's real hard. And so especially as a wing player. And so that's what Brandon Ingram, kind of has to do. Then you've got Lonzo, who's continuing to have to develop and, work around injury, work around these other things that have plagued him. But he's shown you a higher peak almost than any other player except for the scoring. Obviously, Kuzma's shown a higher scoring peak than Lonzo has. But Lonzo's shown a bigger ability to impact every other part of the game than Kuzma and then these other players on the Lakers. And so him being said that, him or Brandon Ingram aren't living up to expectations, I just think that's absurd. I think because they're part of the Lakers team, their expectations just get amplified. I mean, James Harden was a lottery pick, and his numbers looks very similar to what Lonzo's already did. Like, Lonzo's going to be a bona fide superstar, and I mean, honestly, if I really think he should almost be an all-star this year if it wasn't for the big portion of this year that, he was getting sent to the left or right corner and he wasn't running the offense. If he was running the offense for the Lakers all year and there hadn't been a LeBron, I think Lonzo's almost an all-star this year, just on the way he would have progressed through all of these games on his own. And so, and maybe that one is a little off, but really, he's and Lonzo's even said that one time before, right? Lonzo even said that, what is Kuzma without ZO2? And he isn't a whole lot. You haven't seen Kuzma really without Lonzo. You haven't got to see him a ton. During the summer league, now, or last year, all of those different times, he got to have Lonzo, got to develop along Lonzo, and had Lonzo feeding him the ball, telling him to shoot, wanting him and others to shoot, giving him that confidence. So, I mean, when you just look, and now Kuz obviously probably had a lot of that confidence on his own anyway, but the Lakers begin and end with Lonzo Ball. If they have any chance to upset the Warriors this year, it begins and ends with Lonzo Ball. Because again, I only say that because we know what LeBron James is going to do. We know what he can go out there and do against the Warriors. He could go give us 40, 50 points, virtually every game if he wasn't engaged and really thought we could win the series. That's what LeBron can go out there and do every game of the finals. So we really, or not the finals, but in the Western Conference. So we really other players are going to do along the way. And that's why these kind of overtime games that get a playoff-like atmosphere on the road are so important. And that's why tonight, I don't care what TNT says that Oklahoma City lost the game. The Lakers won that game. Lonzo Ball won that game, took that game, and that's just the simple end of it. The Lakers won 138-128 in overtime, and they were pretty dominant. You saw across the board. You just saw kind of people play better. Josh Hart was 3 of 6 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. I was expecting a little better shooting game from Josh Hart. I was expecting him to have almost the kind of night Kuzma did, where Kuzma went 7 of 12 from 3, just because Hart had been so bad from three-point range, over the previous games that I thought he was due for one. Now, he still shot 50%, 2 of 4, and played solid minutes. He even got 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 12 points, 1 block, 3 steals. Like, Josh Hart is playing defense. He's all over the place. He's playing with heart. Nope. I guess there was a pun intended, actually. And so, Josh Hart was 6'8", he would be... Oh, no, yeah. And so that's part of what makes Lonzo so good is the mismatch on that side of the ball. The fact that he is so much taller than a lot of the guards he's guarding.
But, I mean, that's just... Well, Josh Hart, you can say he can't shoot, but again, at least before tonight, going into tonight, he was 72 of 211. Now he's 73 of 215 for like 35% from the field. And Lonzo is... What was Lonzo? Lonzo was 71 of, I think, 213. And so now Lonzo is 75 of 223. Somewhere in that range. And so you see you just see Josh Hart has made one or two less threes on a couple less attempts. But before this game he had made one more three on two less attempts. So Josh Hart has been a similar shooter to Lonzo. No, okay, but Lonzo's been a streaky shooter at times too. And yes, Hart's a streaky shooter, but I mean, a lot of NBA players can be pretty streaky. Now, his have been a little more than others, but again, he was shooting even a better percentage than that before this last, whatever games went by, and Josh Hart was 18%. Like, over the last 10 games, he's 18% from three before tonight, right? So, if you take that out, all those games out, well, Josh Hart was shooting like 39% from three when LeBron was healthy. And so when you're just looking at numbers like that, like, okay, maybe he can't shoot, but again, let's get LeBron on the court again. Let's kind of see how everything changes. See if he can continue to find his hot shooting that he had hit earlier in the year. Kind of see what happens, right? And, again, and that's why plus and minus is something that I think is almost so ridiculous. I mean, Lonzo had a minus 12 again. And he was obviously so important. And so sometimes the plus and minus can be telling and sometimes it can't. Like, obviously the plus 35 for Zubac is telling. It tells you exactly what you need to know, and that's that he was a problem. But then other times it can, just because a team or a lineup that you're on the court with has a bad 5-6 minute stretch, it can change your entire plus minus for the whole night. So looking at an individual game plus minus isn't as good as, looking at a whole season. Usually an entire season will end up, having the best players have the best plus and minuses. And so, that's just generally what will happen by season's end. But I mean, a game-by-game basis, you can't always just look at the same thing. And so I'm going to go ahead and end tonight's live broadcast on that note. And we will pick up again before the Rockets game for Rockets-Lakers pregame. I will go live for that at 10 a.m. before they play each other. And we also go live every Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. And if Lakers play Saturday or Sunday, the pregame will be during our live show at 10 a.m. And so we go live every morning during those times, and for an entire slate of NBA talk, MVP rankings, most improved, rookie of the year, even though that's obviously Luka, and everything else in between. And so you can catch us again next time we go live, and thank you for tuning in to Unique Sports Plus.